All right. Good morning, everybody, or afternoon if you're on that side of the world. Let me know, okay, if you can hear me okay. Hey, everyone. Okay, good. Hey, people can hear me. Good. All right. What's up, Catherine and Micah and Benjamin and Sheena and Chris? Hello, everybody. Aaron. All righty. Good deal. Well, we're going to get started here in just a second. Ryan and Walker, can you guys hear me okay? All right. All right, cool. All right, well, guys, we're going to get started here in just like 1 second. Again, thank you for bearing with us on this brand new webinar software. We've never done Webinar Ninja before. Usually on Bigger Pockets, I use like Zoom or GoToWebinar, but we thought we'd try out something brand new today. So again, welcome everybody. Today we're going to talk about how to make money bringing Brandon a deal, or that's weird third person talk. Basically, the website's bringbrandonaddeal.com. We thought it'd be kind of funny and memorable. And we're going to talk a little about how to do that today. So let's see. A couple quick things before we get started. Let me see if the layout can alter a little bit. Hey, there we go. Now I can see a little bit better. And okay, good. Hey, Zach, what's up? Brahan. I'm probably butchering your name. I apologize for that. Melanie. And let me know where you guys are from in the world, over in the chat area. Let me know who you are and where you're from. I'd love to know kind of where you're at in the world. Like Zach's in Northern Virginia, James in DC. Let's see, Tamika in Atlanta, Marie in LA, Scott in Lone Tree, Colorado, and Benjamin in Vancouver, all over the place. Brent, Seattle. What's up, Brett from Texas? San Antonio, Pierre. Heather from Indiana, Cliff from DC. I'm not going to give a shout out to every single person here because that would take us too long. But with that, I think we'll just jump into this. And the whole webinar should probably be no more. We haven't done this before, so we're guessing 25 minutes. We'll see, and then we'll do some Q&A at the end. So we're going to just walk through some details here. So first of all, hello, everybody, and welcome. Let me introduce myself. My name is Brandon Turner. You probably know who I am because you're here, because you probably follow me on Instagram. But I am the managing member at Open Door Capital, along with the Bigger Pockets podcast and author and all that stuff. But kind of my favorite role is being like heading up Open Door Capital, which we buy mobile home parks. Ryan, you want to explain who you are, and then we'll go through Walker as well?
I'm the Director of Operations or VP of Acquisitions for Open Door Capital. I've got a dozen or so years of multifamily and mobile home ownership and management experience. Recently moved from Bangor, Maine out to Hawaii full-time about a year and a half ago to focus full-time on Open Door Capital.
Nice.
Yeah. Hey guys. So my name is Walker Meadows. If you submitted a lead through Bring Brandon a Deal, I'm probably the one that you chatted with. I lead our acquisitions efforts at Open Door Capital. So everything through finding parks, underwriting them, getting them to the closing table. I'm in Atlanta, Georgia. So shout out to, I think it was Tamika, who's from Atlanta. And so my background's kind of in a variety of engineering, corporate finance, and data analytics. So yeah, glad everybody showed up today.
Yeah, very cool. All right, so that's who we are. Again, you probably all know who most of us are. So our agenda today, we're gonna go real quick through like this kind of introduction in this room right now. A few disclaimers just to put out there. We're gonna go through exactly what we're looking for at Open Door Capital, and then how to submit those leads and what the next steps that we do in that process is. And then we're going to go through a couple of successful case studies of some deals that people have found, and we'll talk about how they've done that and how we're working to pay out that big lead fee, that $50,000 referral fee for them if we close on those deals, which is kind of cool. And then we'll talk about kind of a common thread of high quality leads. This is really important. We get a lot of leads coming in that just don't meet our criteria in any way or have another issue with them. And so we want to, part of the reason for this webinar is kind of train you guys so you guys can find the best stuff, so you have the highest chance of making a bunch of money working for us. Like, I really believe that if somebody wanted to, they could probably earn a full-time 6-figure living just finding deals for Open Door Capital. And it would be an amazing, cool job experience, business, whatever you want to call that. And then we'll do some Q&A at the end. So we'll talk about kind of how that's done. The disclaimer is the first one I want to put out there, and this is important because we've been burned on this in the past several times, is as we go through everything else today, is be very diligent and not representing yourself as I'm working with Brandon Turner, I'm working with Open Door Capital. There's a few reasons why we say that, but primarily is owners get contacted multiple times by, there's not that many mobile home parks. I mean, really, we're talking what we figure 2,000 to 4,000 that meet our criteria in the entire country. And so at the end of the day, it's not that many parks. So people get contacted multiple times. We've had brokers get contacted multiple times saying that they represent us. And we've just been burned on that a lot. So careful on that. Anything you want to add to that, guys?
Say, like Brandon mentioned, there's probably only 2,000 to 3,000 mobile home parks in the U.S. period that meet our criteria. So if we have hundreds of people peppering brokers and owners, they're definitely going to get hit twice. So, and we've just been, and it's nothing against any individual person. We just have had a couple of bad experiences in the past where we've lost a little bit of credibility with brokers and owners because less experienced people had reached out to them and kind of made some comments that didn't portray us in a great light. So it's just kind of a blanket thing we've had to apply across the board, nothing against any like individual person.
Yeah, and I think in all of those cases where we've had any issue at all, it was people who had good intentions and meant well. They just were just saying things that we really wish that they hadn't said, especially as a representative of us. So the big thing is that you need to just represent yourself and say that, you know, you are working with your acquisitions company and that you have you've partnered with buyers or however you want to spin it. But it's just important that you don't specifically represent Brandon or Open Door Capital.
Yeah. Of course, if you find a deal and it works through, you know, we're going to do a warm handoff. We'll talk about that later. And, you know, obviously at that point you can, you know, bring us up, you're going to introduce us, all that. But just in the beginning, when you're out there just prospecting, just be careful with that. And then this is another big thing is that we get a lot of leads sent to us that are just broker listed leads. And I can tell you guys, we are on pretty much every broker list that deals with mobile home parks anywhere in the country. If a deal comes through a broker, we already know about it. And so that's really our we've already got it. So there's some confusion has been over that. And so what we're looking for is off-market stuff. For example, I lived in Grays Harbor, Washington for, you know, a decade. There were 3 parks in town that I just know for a fact are like large parks that are on city sewer and water, I'm pretty sure. But like those are the kind of deals we're looking at. You know about a property in your town, or you find some way to reach out to those owners. You connect us with the owners. That's what we're talking about here is the off-market stuff. Scott had a question. Do you guys have a preferred pick you'd like people to use?
Yeah.
Either Walker or Ryan. Do you guys have some that you've seen work
really
well?
Not our preference, but I mean, you kind of do it as however you like or however you feel is most effective. But something that we've seen used in the past is like, hey, my name's John Doe. I run an acquisitions company that focuses on mobile home park acquisitions. I have a buyer, a large, well-capitalized buyer that I partner with, and their entity actually buys the park, but they partner with my company on the acquisitions front. Something to kind of that effect.
Yeah, I like that. It sounds professional. It sounds like without giving away too much there, but it makes you look like you're not just fly by night. You know, like, you know, I've never done this before. Like, you sound like you've been a professional acquisitions person forever. I think that's important. So I think that works there. Also, keep in mind, like, again, we want direct connection to sellers. So we like to say this on the website. We say it all over. An address is not a lead. What we want to avoid is somebody uploading a list of 10,000 addresses and then saying, well, if you close on any of them, I'm going to, you know, I want a referral fee. Like, that just doesn't work for us. Like, obviously, we have addresses. We have lists of pretty much every park in the entire country. I think we probably have every single address of every park in the country. So what we are looking for is relationships. It doesn't mean you're best friends with the owner, but it just means you have had conversations with them and you can do a warm handoff to us. You know that they're at least interested in selling or would be open to an offer, that kind of situation. The $50K referral fee, of course, is paid at closing. Upon a successful closing, it's not just $50K for submitting a lead, which would be awesome, but we would be quickly broke. So we have to successfully close on the deal to earn that $50,000, and then you're going to receive a 1099 for any payment received. So if you get the $50K, just make sure you set aside some taxes for that. And Scott said, are you actively calling your list? So Scott, we are not personally actively calling our list really in-house. Like, that's what we're really relying on other people to do. Like, we know what we're good at and what we have specialty in all of our aspects. I mean, we have wholesalers that we are working with, people just like you guys that are calling some of the prospects they have on our list. I'm not gonna say we're not doing anything, but Ryan's not picking up the phone calling a lot of sellers. I'm not calling sellers. Walker's not calling sellers. So we're really trying to rely on people who are good at that aspect of prospecting to bring us the lead.
To outsource.
Anything you guys want to add to that?
As much as possible.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, cool. Yeah, Scott said, yeah, we had at one point, we had a group of, interns was maybe the wrong word. It was like just a team of people we offered equity to a little bit in exchange for learning with our team. And it didn't really work out the way we wanted it to. And so that was basically where Mike Williams came from that group. And so we just hired Mike instead to run some of that. And then Walker as well. Walker came from kind of one of those groups. So that's kind of where that sales force was. And it just didn't work out the way we wanted to. We just didn't have the time to train necessarily a group of tons of people on doing it, which is why we're doing this webinar now instead. So what we're looking for, essentially good deals for us is off market with a direct line of communication to the seller. We've said that a couple of times now. That's really what we want is direct line of communication with the seller. And then we want 100 plus lots. We don't want a 12 unit, a 5 unit, a 7 unit, a 25 unit. Now, somebody asked the question, Tamika, I've come across a few parks that have 80 to 99 mobile homes. Should we forward or pass? I would say if it's that close, use your best judgment. I mean, like, here's the thing, right? Yeah. If there's a 150 unit mobile home park and every spot rents for $12 a month, right? Like, that's ridiculous, but I'm just using an analogy here. Like, or there's a park with 80 units that rents for $800 each lot. Like, the 80 lot park is going to be worth way more money and way more valuable to us. So some of it kind of comes down to price in a way. Like, we just don't want to deal with $50,000, $100,000, $500,000 mobile home parks. We want multi-million-dollar parks, and typically they are 100 units and greater. But use your best judgment there.
Yeah, so usually the 80 to 99 lot mobile home parks you would be interested in if those lot rents are higher, and you usually see that around bigger markets. So, maybe outside Atlanta or Phoenix or, a bigger city that tends to have a little more attraction to us. But please don't send us a 37 lot mobile home park out in the middle of nowhere, because that's clearly not going to work.
Yeah, but that said, if you find a 37 lot mobile home park that you get an off market connection with, like, we would encourage you guys. I mean, pursue that lead for yourself. Ask, maybe you can buy it for yourself. Maybe you can find somebody in the Bigger Pockets marketplace who would be interested in it. There's more people out there, and we are an aggressively high buyer. In other words, we buy big properties, but there are a lot of buyers out there for smaller deals, and it's something we may work on in the future is building up a buyers list of those smaller deals, and then being able to when you guys find a smaller deal. We just don't have a system right now in place. We just can't handle that.
Yeah, certainly. Just because it doesn't work for us doesn't mean it's not necessarily a good deal. It just doesn't work for us with our structure and the returns that we promote to investors and just the overall management from a distance. You could find a great off-market park that would make a fantastic local owner-operator property, but it just simply doesn't work for us.
That's what I was going to say too, is that, like we mentioned, there's so few mobile home parks, and that's one of the things that make it such a desirable asset class, because the demand is so crazy. I would say even if it doesn't fit our criteria, if you have a direct line of communication with a seller that is not actively marketing their park but is open to selling, like, you have a valuable asset on your hands potentially, like whether it's to us or to somebody else. So definitely don't, if you go through all the effort to get that dialogue going, don't just throw it in the trash because it doesn't fit our criteria. Like, there's still value to be had there.
Yeah, it's a great question, or great thought. Couple quick questions. One of them came in. Jason asked, can a referral fee be taken as equity? That's a really good question, because I know that a lot of people would be more interested in that. And so let me put it, I think I popped up on the screen. Maybe it didn't work. Anyway, somebody said can't hear. Yeah, I'm not sure what that was, but Jason, can referral fee. Here's the deal. So we are a 506c fund, and so we cannot accept investors that are not accredited investors. And so there is a legal component here. Is normally I would say, sure, you can take your referral fee and dump it into the fund and be a limited partner. Now, legally, we can't actually do that. However, there may be ways in the future that we can work that. It gets difficult because we are a fund, we're not doing one-off deals. Now, if it's a large enough deal that one deal is we're going to raise one set of money for it, there's a little bit easier options for doing that, because you could become a part of a GP for finding the deal, but it gets complicated. So I guess the short answer is unlikely unless you are already an accredited investor. But if it's a large enough deal or a profitable enough deal, there's ways that we could potentially work that out.
Yeah, I would say
you guys want to end that?
Just don't.
No, that's good.
I mean, the percentage of deals that make it all the way through initial prospecting to the closing table is like 0.1%. And so say just don't get super hung up on the compensation structure. If it's a good deal and we get it all the way there, like we're going to make it work. Both sides will I would say don't get too hung up on the compensation side.
Yeah. And the last thing we're looking for is city, sewer, and water. Sometimes that's difficult to know, but if you have a direct line of contact with the seller and you've had conversations, that's a very easy question. They'll know. And so the reason why is just because there's things like wastewater treatment plants and wells and septic, and all those things have a lot of unknowns. Not that they're bad deals. I know a lot of investors who love them and will buy them all day long. I mean, the benefits of having a well is you don't pay for water. But we just as a team don't like that added risk. That doesn't fit our profile right now. And so we're choosing not to pursue anything that doesn't have city or water. Now, that said, again, I like to tell people use some common sense here. If you find a deal that's so unbelievably good and it happens to have a well, but we could convert it to city, sewer, and water for $500,000, but we're getting a $5 million discount on it. Well, obviously, then we could turn into a city, sewer, and water deal, and we could maybe make this thing work. So there are very unique situations where we would be okay with it, but it's very rare, and we've never done that before, and I don't expect to ever actually do that. But it is somewhat possible to have that creative thought. How can we make this work? So. And then, of course, the bad deals would be things like broker leads, LoopNet listings. Again, we're on LoopNet all the time. One member of our team has the expensive membership there, so they get all the fancy listings ahead of everybody else. So we're looking for off-market connections to the owners with greater than 100 units and city, sewer, and water. And then here's kind of the process how this works is when you're ready, when you find that property and you're thinking, hey, this could be a really good one. I talked to the seller. They said that they'd be open to an offer. And by the way, guys, that's a really good question to ask sellers is not so much do you want to sell, but would you be open to an offer? Like most investors are open to an offer, and that gets the conversation going. And that's really what we want is the conversation going. Obviously, somebody who says, I need to sell right now, I got taxes due next week, and I got a baby coming, and I got to sell tomorrow, that's a more valuable lead to us. But somebody who says, yeah, I'd be open to an offer, and they've submitted some of their financials, and they've given at least, we know how many units they have, we know kind of what their income and expenses are, that's still a lead that we would want to pursue, even if they're not super hot and ready to sell right now because they're super motivated. The great thing about commercial real estate in general is that people don't always sell because they're motivated. They sell because they've hit the peak of their return for their investors, or they've changed their life experience and they want to move into something else, or they just got tired of it. So it doesn't necessarily mean if they're ready to sell, they're motivated. We're not looking to steal properties. We're looking to pay actually normal rates for properties. And again, we're not trying to get 50 cents on the dollar here on a property. And I think that sellers are, even that language, I think is appropriate to use with sellers. Is you got the buyers that I work with, we're not trying to steal a property and get it for half price here. We just want to really what we're trying to do here is get it before the competition. We'll pay what the competition pays. We just want to get there before the competition does. And I'm not saying you need to say it to the seller, but that's what we're trying to do here. So let's say you do that. You go to www.bringbrandondeal.com, and there's a big black button there that says submit a lead. You would click that. You would click that button right there that says submit a lead. And it takes you to just a Google form, basically. It's just a form. It just says name, address of the property, your email address, how many units do they have approximately, et cetera. And there's just a few listing things there. You'll check that through. You hit submit. And that's really the crux of the issue there. Anything you guys want to add there? I mean, that's it for bringing a lead.
Yeah, no, that's great. There's a couple of questions I'd like to address. Are you targeting certain regions in the U.S.? And not so much regions, but what we're looking for is a stable, or better yet, increasing population. We typically say 100,000 people within a 10-mile radius. This is not something that you guys necessarily need to chase down and figure out. We can do that if you just submit, the basic lead with the 100+ lots and public water, public sewer. But just to give you a little insight on something that we may or may not choose to pursue. If we see that there's a significantly decreasing population, or maybe just a very, very small population where we know we're not going to be able to find tenants or contractors, or just have a hard time operating, that would be something that would lead us to possibly discount that park and not pursue it. Another good question: are we interested in a portfolio of properties if a few of the properties don't fit our criteria? And the answer there is it depends. yes, a lot of times if we're evaluating an entire portfolio, there may be 3 or 4 great parks coupled with 1 or 2 that we don't like. And at that point, we'd have to make a determination if we're forced to buy them all. Would we take and operate the ones that we don't like because the other ones are so good, or is there a chance that we could buy them all and then sell off the other smaller ones that we don't like? And yes, so if you find an entire portfolio and the majority of them do fit our criteria, please submit the lead, and we can make a determination from there whether it's worth pursuing.
Yeah, that's a good point about, like, we could, if we buy a portfolio, which I love the idea of buying portfolios, like
we love nothing more than to buy an entire portfolio. That's really what we, if you find somebody that's got a sizable portfolio, please send it our way.
Yeah, so here's a tip for everybody out there listening. If you're talking to a seller at any point, a lot of times you'll contact a seller of a park and you'll say, hey, do you have any interest in selling, or would you take an offer or whatever? And they might say no. The question, and this is not just mobile home park, this is any real estate just in general for your whole life. Always ask the question, do you have anything else that you'd be looking to sell or whatever? Because a lot of times the deals that you get are like, but we interviewed a guy in the podcast. I can't remember who it was. I don't even remember Ryan, but recently where he said that, no, it was David. I think it was David Perret got it this way, from Military to Millionaire, I think is what he was telling me. Basically the idea that he called a seller, I think it was on a Craigslist ad or maybe direct mail marketing, and talked to the guy, and the guy was like, yeah, no, I don't want to sell, thanks, but no thanks. And then David's like, well, do you have anything else? And the guy's like, well, I got this one nasty property. You wouldn't be interested in it at all. You don't want that thing. And he's like, no, tell me more about it. And he ended up buying that property. And so sellers don't always think about that. But if you called me and asked me if you could buy my Maui triplex, I would say no. But then if you asked, and I would probably just hang up the phone. But if you called me and said, do you have anything else that you'd be looking to sell anywhere in the country? I'd be like, actually, yeah, I got a couple duplexes in Grays Harbor that I'd actually probably unload and probably, give a fairly decent deal on. Right. So because they don't fit my profile anymore. And I don't even think about those properties. So until you ask that question.
And just that piggyback on that, Brandon,
you may not see an answer. And I think actually one of our success
Bring Brandon
stories that we're talking about in a minute
some of our most successful wholesalers,
like
I'd say 50% of the leads that they bring us all came that way as like a follow-up to what I was calling them about property A, but this is property B that came up in conversation. So that's a great strategy. And one other point I wanted to make on the portfolio of properties, a lot of times what you'll see in, we need over 100 pads. And if this is a portfolio of 3 parks, each park within that portfolio also needs to hit that 100 pad mark. Because what you'll see a lot of times is people say, 150 pad mobile home park, 9-park portfolio. Like that's not that, you see that a good bit. They try to roll up the consolidated number of lots into the offering numbers. So just make sure that each of the parks still checks that 100 pad box if it's a portfolio.
Yeah, that's a good, and like Ryan said, if some of them do and some don't, maybe there's a way to separate them out. There's also this, if they're all in the exact same area. For example, we bought a park in Ohio, and it was actually 2 parks next door to each other. That each of the I don't even know if individually each one didn't meet our 100 thing, but combined it was like 150 or whatever units. So like combined, and they were next door. Of course that works. Like common sense would say, we just treat that as one park. The reason we like, just maybe people can know, the reason we like larger parks is because of the management issue primarily. And there's a couple of reasons why we like them, but one is it takes a lot of work to manage, a 20-unit mobile home park. And when you do that, you can't afford to have a full-time staff. You can't really have maintenance guys full-time or even part-time on a small property. So the larger has these, what's that word called, where it's like economies of scale. Yeah, so that's what we're looking for. There's also just the fact that if we want to buy 1,000 pads, or if we want to have 1,000 pads by the end of the year, that's a lot of 10-unit parks, or it's 1,000-unit park, right? So, and obviously we're not going to get a 1,000-unit park, but the idea being the larger properties, we can raise the money. I mean, we have a $10 million fund right now that we're almost fully raised on. We can raise the money for large parks, so it's like why worry about the little ones? So anyway, that's kind of why we do that. Yeah. Vic said, I think it was Henry Washington. Yeah, maybe it was Henry Washington about the asking if they had another deal. Yeah, that episode was legit. So cool. Anyway, so that's that. Any other things that we need to cover before we move on? Oh, somebody said, if a seller wants to close quickly, what's your timeline? I mean,
depends on the situation. If it's a great deal and circumstances warrant it, we can close with cash. So there's typically a due diligence period. Generally, that's 30 to 40 days. But again, for the right deal, the right circumstances, we could compress that and close quickly with cash. If it's a finance deal, kind of a run-of-the-mill, vanilla flavored deal, it's 30 to 40 days of due diligence plus another 30 to 60 days of financing contingency. So if we really got a hustle and it fits the profile of a cash deal, we can do it in 30 to 45 days total. If it's a finance deal, you're generally looking at, it's fairly industry standard, 60 to 90 days to close.
Yeah. It's a little different than like buying like a residential house where you can go do an inspection and then in the next day have all the information. Like you guys would be shocked at the level of detail that we go into in due diligence. I mean, just thousands and thousands of data points you have to look into and compare leases to this, and it's a pretty exhaustive process. We're quick, but
and it's not uncommon for them to go 120 plus days if there's extensions or you find issues during due diligence or back and forth with negotiations. So it really depends.
Let's see. Pierre asked, would we basically are interested in parks 50% or less occupied? That's a great question, because what we find there's a lot of parks out there that we say 100 pads. And there's 100 pads, but there's 12 actual houses on those pads. Generally speaking, if it's below 50%, I'd probably say 50%. If it's below 50%, it's probably not in our wheelhouse. Again, use some common sense there. If it's a screaming good deal and you think it's just like the guy's just super motivated and it's in a great market, yes, we would do a 50 or 40 or 30% deal maybe if it's a screaming good deal. But we would prefer to have somewhere like 50 to 70% occupied. We're actually we don't need them to be 100% occupied. We actually like value add. That's what we're looking for is value add primarily. Not that we wouldn't buy a not value add, but we like value add. So yeah, keep that in mind. Chrissy, does the lead need to be under contract before we submit it? No, it does not. So very good question. All we want is a connection to the seller. That's all we want is a connection. Now I know in typical wholesale, let's say you're going to go wholesale a house to somebody, you would put it under contract. So, and then you would go legally, you go shop it to other cash buyers. The reason you would do that, I mean, let's just we'll cover the elephant in the room. The reason you would do that is because you don't want that person stealing your deal. And so by not having it under contract, if you introduced us, technically, we could just screw you over and say, you know what? Oh, no, we never heard from you. Now, granted, there's some you have some proof that you had a conversation with the seller ahead of time. And, there's obviously you have some backing there. But what we like to say is we're not in the business of screwing people. I have my most valuable thing in life, besides my kids, is my reputation. Right? Everything that we've done at Open Door Capital is built off my reputation. And so we cannot ever lose that's why I don't want to say trust us, because it's not just trust. I mean, you have some you submitted the lead. We know what date you submitted it on, all that. But we're very cognizant of the fact that my reputation is why I've been able to raise money and bring in people to help find deals and all that. And so that's hopefully gives you a little bit of peace of mind there that we're not going to screw you over. We want you to win, because people who win are going to not bring us one deal, but 20 deals, right? We want one person or two people, three people bringing us dozens of deals over the next decade and making just a stupid amount of money because if you can find one deal, you can find more deals, I guess. So anyway, keep that in mind that yes, you do not need to have it under contract. We will take.
Yeah, you don't need to have it under contract, and you're not going to be expected to negotiate or broker the deal. All we need is the warm handoff, the introduction, and we will take it from there.
Because a lot of times,
we want to make it
a lot of the mom and pop sellers aren't. That's
great.
Some of the value of finding these off-market leads is, that they're not always super sure of what the value of their asset is. And so, really just that you have some rapport built, you have that open line of dialogue going enough to where you can do a warm handoff to us and we kind of take it from there.
Yeah, it's a great point. So here's what we do once the deal comes in. The beard has a good reputation also. Trying. It gets a bad reputation. I got to kind of overcome. All right, so here's our steps. We use a program called Asana. It's a great project management tool. I actually would recommend it to anybody who wants to organize their life better. So what happens is when you submit a lead at bringbrandinadeal.com, it actually automatically gets put into our Asana. So we're not going to lose the lead. You're not emailing it. It's going to go to spam. It goes right into our pipeline. So our pipeline, we work our business the same way I teach people to build their small real estate businesses on Bigger Pockets webinars every week. We get leads, we organize them, we analyze them, we make offers, we get some successes, and that funnel is run through Asana. And so again, we're not going to lose your lead. We will reach out to that person as quickly as possible, usually within 1 to 5 days at most. If it's a weekend and a holiday, maybe it's a little bit longer. But our team is very, very quick to reach out, because we know that if you have a lead, you have a warm handoff ready with us, then we want to make sure we keep that warm, that lead hot. And so we're going to do it as quickly as possible. And so we'll schedule with you a time for a handoff with a seller. Maybe it's a Zoom call, maybe it's just a 3-way conversation, maybe it's an email, whatever you think would be best for that seller. We can work on a warm handoff so that the seller doesn't get like, whoa, wait, I was working with you, and now all of a sudden these other weirdos with the big beard is talking to me, like, what's going on here? We try to make that as simple and calm as possible. And then we may, and we may, I don't know what you guys think about this, Walker and Ryan, but we may, if you're interested, we can kind of keep you involved a little bit in the process, so that way you guys can like still be involved, so the seller knows who you are. If it's in a local area, we may say if you want to drive by and take a picture of something, or drive by the seller and ask them to sign something. Not that we need that, but it just kind of feels like you're still involved, and then you're learning about what we're doing as we do it. So if the lead comes through and we're pursuing it, we want you to learn how it's done, because my guess is that most of you guys would want to buy these properties eventually someday as well. And so we want this to kind of be a learning experience as well, for you. So keep that in mind as well. All right, so then here's a couple of just quick success stories about people who have already started this process. For example, this first one is a deal we have under contract right now. It's a great deal that we really, really like a lot. Somebody actually found it they followed me on Instagram. They heard about the Bring Brandon a Deal referral fee. They started cold calling throughout the U.S. In fact, actually, Walker, you want to go through this? You know the story a little better than I do.
So shout out to you, Brett. And he just texted me and said that
oh, nice.
This was a reminder for him to text me and ask me about an update from another deal that we're working on together.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
so
Brett, one person brings a deal and they got to bring more.
Yeah. So this is a part we have under contract. Yeah. So Brett, he's on the call today. He actually used to work for Cardone Capital. He just started cold calling park owners throughout Texas. And this is exactly what you were talking about earlier, Brandon. There's a park owner that owns probably 9 parks there in Texas in the Rio Grande Valley area. And they weren't interested in selling one of those parks, but they had this one outlier park up in the Midwest that they were looking to sell. And he built a great deal of rapport with the seller. They're fairly mom and pop, and had already obtained a ton of the information that we would need to recognize it as a good deal. So number of pads, lot rent, why are they looking to sell, stuff like that. And then, and only then, after all that work, did he submit it through bringbrandonthedeal.com. Then I saw it, and we've touched base. And from the time that he submitted it, we had the whole park, not just offer accepted, but under contract in a week, which is pretty incredible. This was like an all hands on deck priority for us because of how good of a deal it is. And so, yeah, obviously, like I just mentioned, we got multiple deals in the pipeline with him. James, who I was just mentioning, I think we've offered on at least one other park that he sent us. So, yeah, just a great example of kind of the ideal lead for us.
Brent, that's awesome. Very cool. So a couple other just kind of successes we've seen, at least in the process so far. For example, actually, Walker, I'll let you take it again. I'm talking a lot.
Yeah. So number one here, kind of a similar scenario. It was a submitter from North Carolina, Steven. I don't think he's on the call today, but he started doing the same thing, doing cold calling locally there in the North Carolina area. Found a mom and pop seller in Moorhead City, North Carolina, and basically just worked. He followed the exact same process as Brett. Like, got all the pertinent information. Had great rapport built with the seller. We were able to schedule a 3-way call with me and him and the seller. Kind of did a warm handoff, and we took it from there. We submitted an LOI. This was kind of funny. We try to be fairly creative with our LOIs to catch the seller's attention. And on this one, we actually submitted they had a fancy for shrimp burgers, so we submitted a $300 shrimp burger gift certificate with this LOI. Yeah, so to be determined how that one shakes out, and he as well has additional deals in the pipeline. So you kind of see a recurring theme. People that make success, Brandon, to your point, like it's not, they don't just find one deal. If they submit one deal, inevitably more deals will follow. So, and then point two, this is another one of our submitters, Blake. He has launched he's kind of taken a different approach and has launched a direct mail campaign. And so this is just a great example of, like, there's tons of ways to market to sellers, like direct mail. You can do cold calling, you can do Facebook ads, you can do all kind of stuff, but it all serves the same purpose, to generate a funnel so that you can gauge interest and then kind of progress the lead on down the pipeline. But yeah, I mean, we're seeing great traction so far.
Cool. Yeah. Tamika said, I submitted a lead weeks ago and you guys are already working on it. So I'm still on the hunt. Yeah. A lot of times you'll send a lead and we already have it, especially if it's a broker or some kind of other lead. And we'll just tell you if it is, but like, well, hey, yeah, we already have this one or whatever, which is further why we just want to encourage people, like, make sure it's off market, make sure it's a relationship you built. Yeah, it's awesome. All right. So common thread. And yeah, Melanie asked if we can outline the park details. We'll do that again in just a moment. But common thread, all successful high quality leads follow the same process. First, actually, Ryan, I've been talking forever. You talk. Gotta share the teaching moments here.
Was use some form of marketing. So you need to cold call, email, direct mail to contact park owners. It's especially helpful if you already have an existing relationship. I mean, we've seen stuff come in from like, hey, I was at Thanksgiving and I realized my uncle had a park he was looking to sell. And sometimes it's as simple as that. But if you're absolutely cold, then you need to get out there and market. Once a potential seller responds, establish a good rapport and obtain key park details. So we want the number of lots, the utility setup, lot rents if you can get them, pricing expectations, which it's nice to have, but again, like don't burden yourself or feel overwhelmed trying to get the pricing out of the seller. And their motivation to sell also helps. So either, they're retiring or they want to do something else or whatever. The park is just more than they can handle and they're stressed out. We've seen cases where people may have inherited a park from their parents or a family member and they just don't want to deal with it. So any information you can get and provide us is helpful, but it's the most critical that we have the number of lots, which is 100 plus, and the utility setup, which is public water, public sewer, which I guess takes care of the third one, right? Direct to seller off market and then submit. Yeah, and then submit to the Bring Brandon a Deal website. And we'll schedule a three-way call or a Zoom call, like Brandon had mentioned, whatever the best method to do the handoff is. Just to you at that point would have a rapport with the seller. You'd transition that over to us, and we take it and run with it.
Besides, like, those three kind of successful leads that we kind of ran through, or those three successful submitters, they all spent 95% of their time doing points 1 and 2. A lot of people rush to number 3 to try to submit the lead. But really the most effective way to get quality, not quantity, is to put in the time and effort to really get that direct line of communication going and then submit it. So
yeah, it's really good. All right, so one last review of the type of property we're looking for. I think it's right here, right there. Is really what we're looking for is off-market deals, 100 plus lots, city, sewer, and water. If you want to further qualify that with, we do want bigger areas, like slightly big. Like if it's in the middle of nowhere, farm country with not a single town within 100 miles, probably not something we're going to pursue. But we're happy for you to still submit that lead, because there are extenuating circumstances. But generally speaking, we want an area that's increasing in population or at least stable. It's just like the typical real estate stuff, in commercial real estate. We don't want to, put our investors at risk, and so we're going to do what we can.
Firm criteria, and then like what I call squishy criteria. So it's like it's gotta check these 3 boxes, and then the other stuff we can give and take on based on the quality of the deal. So like we don't like a lot of park on homes, but if there's an 80% park on home park in the middle of Indianapolis for like $100, then yeah, like we're definitely interested. So these are the only 3 boxes that have to be checked, and that's why we put them on the site. Everything else we kind of screen.
And then Vic asked, do you guys physically visit the site before making an offer? Usually, but not always. I guess you want to touch on that, Ryan?
Yeah, it depends on the situation. If we feel that it warrants it, we will. I mean, if all things were equal, we would. It's been a little difficult over the past couple months, just with travel restrictions and quarantine issues and all that kind of stuff for traveling around. It also can be difficult if, like, the seller doesn't even know their price. We don't necessarily want to travel out there and waste a trip if we're just going to be miles apart on price. But it depends. If it seems like it's a good enough deal, we know the seller's pricing expectations. We think that us being on site prior to making an offer will have a significant impact on the seller's willingness to accept that offer. Then we have certainly mobilized people. Either ourselves will jump on a plane, or we'll get one of our other partners to go visit the park. So, I think every answer I've given,
and then
it
James
depends here.
James asked, you may have
based on
answered this.
situation.
Yeah, we kind of touched on it. If you're the refer, can we also invest if accredited? Yes, if you're if you're accredited. Yes, if you're accredited, you can invest anytime with us, and we're more than happy to take the referral fee and put it into the team. If you're not accredited, then we probably can't, just from a legal standpoint. But if it's a large enough deal, there are potential ways to do it. We could finagle, but generally speaking, yeah, the government restricts us from taking any unaccredited, unless you're really like a company employee. That's like the way around it. If you're like a company employee, you can put money in, and there's a few other roundabout ways. So yeah, that's the gist of what we want to talk about today. So if you guys have any questions, I mean, Walker's really the guy that knows a lot about the acquisition. He's our kind of head of acquisitions, so you can hit him up anytime, Walker at odcfarm.com. And then any questions you have here, we can just cover a few things here. You can put it in the chat area, or there's actually a spot for questions as well. Let's go either one. Yeah, so for example, Scott, what questions have sellers asked
I don't know
you
where
guys
this one's going. So, like,
as you work the referral?
a lot of questions we'll get is like, hey, I've owned this part. My family's owned this part for 70 years. Are you gonna come in here and demo it and kick all the people out and develop it into a multi-use property? And they really have a care for their tenants. So I'd say, like, that's one big point of concern, is that, like, we plan to operate these things as mobile home parks. We do not plan to displace any of the tenants or redevelop the property and convert the use of it. So that's definitely something to put their minds at ease. Yeah, and I would say it also depends on the type of seller, because as you can expect, there's a wide range of sophistication with regards to sellers. Sometimes you'll get a very professional seller, and sometimes it'll be their financials. We literally look at parks where their financials are scribbled on a sheet of graph paper. It's like we get a scan of like a crumbled up sheet of graph paper. So, and I'd say that the questions that they ask vary depending on the on the part. They also they want to know closing timeline and typically, can you be discreet? And we can do both of those as well. Like we mentioned, we can close pretty much as quickly as they want to for the right deal. And confidentiality is a huge concern of ours as well.
I'm getting quite a bit of echo on Walker. I don't know if it's me or somebody, one of you guys, just
Okay.
changed your audio settings. Maybe it's coming through a speaker and feeding back through. If anybody just did anything.
Weird. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, hey, I'm curious in the chat area, how has this webinar been in terms of technology-wise? I've never used webinar. So, like, we all sound clear? Is there that echo? Like, was it easy to get the email to log in and all that? This is also kind of a, yeah. Chris, okay, good. Works great, crystal clear. I hear the Maui birds. Yeah, there you go. All right.
Eli, Bird.
Yep.
Brandon's new best friend.
Bird. Did you guys see the video, by the way, of I don't know if it's been posted on my Instagram yet, the video of the bird flying into my video? That's pretty great. That was fun.
It's doing wonders for my social media presence.
I bet it is. All right, y'all. Yeah, Zoom. Your Zoom webinars have the slight edge for me. Yeah, Zoom seems to be working pretty good. I think we'll probably keep with that. Yeah, definitely the bird in the background. It's funny. All right, yes, there will be a recording to view later. So any other questions before we get out of here? We will send a recording out after this webinar. I think it goes out automatically after the webinar is done. So you'll get that shortly. You can review this if you just came in late or anything like that. Brent, thank you, dude. Said great info. Anything else from you guys? Anything you want to know about mobile home parks or how to find them or things that have worked well? Otherwise, we'll get everybody out of here. And thank you for everyone for showing up. 46 people are here right now. I think I saw a max of like 50 some people, which is really good. That's better percentage than Bigger Pockets gets for show up versus sign up, which is awesome. Is Walker on Instagram? You are, but you don't. I think you've logged in years.
Yeah. So it's probably your fault, Brandon.
Right. There you go. Is that because you read the book Digital Minimalism? Was it really? Nice. Probably. I like that book. It's sitting right behind me, actually. But yeah. Can I do this at 17 years old? I don't see why not. I mean, it's going to be harder for you to establish rapport with sellers. So I would just really rely on the fact that you're out there hunting for leads for a larger company. Anything you want to add to that, Ryan?
Yeah, and if we can't, for whatever reason, legally pay you, I'm sure you can find an adult who's willing to take 50 grand on your behalf. So we will figure it out.
Yeah, I don't know what the legalities are, but I'm sure there's a way to do it. So
yeah, find us a deal. We'll figure it out. I promise.
Yeah, just pay for several years of college education, just subtly. All right, Casey said, "Thanks, guys. Great info. Hope to work with you soon." Agreed. Hope to work with you guys soon. And I don't know if we didn't say this earlier. But I will say this, is we're not looking for one. I think it's probably obvious, but we're not looking for like one. Like, it's not like a contest. Who can bring us the first deal? Like, this is an ongoing thing. So we can work with every single one of you. Like, we have, I don't want to say unlimited, but I have because of the Bigger Pockets network, I have a very good network for raising money. And so we can raise as much as you can find us. As long as they're good deals that are going to produce a great return for our investors, we can make this work. Casey, any good books to help us educate further on mobile home parks? I don't know if there's any good books on mobile home parks that I know of.
Podcasts are a great resource.
Right now, about halfway through it. Mobile Home Park Manifesto just came out. So far, so good. But yeah, that's really the only. I'm not aware of any other books on the subject.
Yeah, podcasts are great. Yeah, Kevin Bupp has a great podcast. Jefferson Lilly has a great podcast. Like, those are good. A good way to get into the mobile home park niche and like get strategies and ideas are listening to those shows. I mean, they go like some of their shows go here's exactly what you should do to to find mobile home parks. And yeah, great idea. Vic, do it to set up an LLC for the deal transaction? I don't believe so. I mean, because really you're just doing a warm handoff to us. We set up an LLC for the transaction. We'll take care of all that. But because you're not dealing with any kind of legal offer or anything like that, you yourself, you
check with your
any of that stuff.
CPA and an attorney. That's my disclaimer
Yeah,
language.
maybe
you
there's
shouldn't
a
have
reason.
to, but we're not tax or legal professionals.
Yeah, maybe there's some obscure reason your CPA or lawyer wants you to have an LLC, we can pay in an LLC if like when it comes down to issuing a 1099, we could issue it to so you can ask your CPA after you're connected to, I would assume. So we can pay whatever we need
the question from Chrissy: what's the best way to speak with sellers that want to discuss their price right away? I mean, if they have an asking price, definitely make note of it. And I don't know, Walker, like they shouldn't. You can't negotiate or respond right away, but just take the information, and if they are able to provide any financial documentation to back that up, we'll definitely take that and take a look at it. But we need to review all the information before we can even start negotiating price. And if you're not comfortable asking for the financial information, just take their information, take the price, and just submit that with the lead.
And they get a lot of tire kickers,
we can dive into it from there.
A lot of times they want to say I need to know that you're at least going to be X amount of dollars, or I'm not even going to talk. And so it's hard, that's a hard situation to be in. And so I'd say one way to counter that is to say, the group that I partner with is very intentional about basically having all the information up front so that once we make an offer, we can execute on it. And emphasize that a lot of people just throw out any kind of offer just to get it under contract and then retrade the deal, and just let them know that you just heavily emphasize, it may or may not work, but just heavily emphasize that we put in the legwork up front to make the transaction go smoothly and to execute on the price that we give them.
And we can say this too. I mean, like if you're talking with a seller, because I've seen this happen before, right? And all sorts of real estate, is the seller says, "Well, what are you gonna offer me?" And like they haven't even given you, I mean, you don't even know how many lots they have, right? So like there's literally no way you could make us an offer, and sellers like should know that, but some of them don't think that deeply through it. So you can just say, well, like the value of the park is going to be worth, it's going to be based on the financials. And so I haven't seen the financials yet. If you get the financials and you've had a conversation with the seller, now you can submit the lead, and we can even like you know what I mean? Like they shouldn't be demanding a price before they offer any indication on financials. And if they've given you financials and you've had that conversation, well, now it's a lead you can submit. And even if like you're not quite ready for the warm handoff, like I'm sure if you email Walker and say, hey, Walker, here's all the financials for this park, the guy really wants to know a general price range before he goes any further, before he gets on a phone call. As soon as you get
financials,
I'm sure Walker can give you a general price guidance based on the financials. But again, we have to have financials to be able to.
You get
that was just ridiculous. Just throwing out random numbers. We don't know what lot rent is. We don't know who's paying water bills. The sewer garbage. We don't know any of that stuff
sort of information, so you can value the property. That's when they're like, or they either go cold on you, or that's a pretty big barrier for sellers to test their motivation. So if you do get the financials, that means, and from our experience, that they're ready to move. So definitely bring us into the fold quickly.
Yep, agreed. Nick asked, "Are we only looking for deals in the U.S.?" Yeah, I think we probably. I mean, Canada sounds cool, but I just don't think we have the experience or the knowledge to be able to pull that off. I just don't know. It's too cold. So I mean, not to say there are good deals in Canada.
We can't deal with the logistics of international
buyers up there.
Acquisitions in our phone.
Yeah. All right. Well, with that, I think that's probably all the questions. I think we've got. Oh, here we go. Can we look for deals out of our local areas? Yeah, look anywhere you can. In fact, I think looking your local area is probably like the best, like because you're going to know that market. So exhaust your local market. That said, California is probably least on our list of places that we're excited to buy in. But if it's a good enough deal, we will buy there all day long. It's a very tenant friendly state. But it's again, the numbers are what we're working here. So yes, definitely look in California, especially I would say in the areas where you're maybe like one of the problems with a lot of mobile home parks in areas, for example, Southern California, is that the seller is not going to sell pricing it on the mobile home park value. They're going to sell it based on what the value of a shopping mall is going to be put there. So we're not going to rezone or redo that work. So in other words, like if you find a park that's like, I mean, I've seen mobile home parks for, $50 million, like on the beach in whatever, Santa Monica, like near the beach. And they're not selling it for 50 million because it's worth 50 million. They're doing it because they know that somebody's going to put up a condo complex there. So just keep that in mind that there's, we're looking to actually keep the mobile home park, not redevelop it. So, opportunities in Northern California. I agree. I think Northern California definitely could be. Why we like mobile home parks is because they're kind of the last bastion of affordable housing, and where is there a bigger need for affordable housing than in Northern California? So I think there could be deals there. I think there could be deals anywhere. So, yeah. Well, thank you everybody for coming today. 53 minutes in, or 54 minutes. I think we'll end it right here. Appreciate all of you. Thank you. If you have further questions, again, walker@odcfund.com.
Thanks everyone.
Have the best.
Appreciate
have a great weekend.
Happy hunting.
And surf up.